Hey everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is 6 Path Weeb. Today, we dive into a brand new Naruto fanfiction scenario. What if Naruko created her own teleportation jutsu? A technique faster than the flying Raijin. A jutsu created not by Minato, but by Naruko herself. How would the shinobi world react? Would this change the fate of Konoha forever? Before we begin. Disclaimer. The content on this channel is made for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any anime footage, music, or copyrighted material used in my videos. Full rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now then. Let's begin the story. The sun had risen only 20 minutes ago, and the Hidden Leaf Village was beginning to wake. Shopkeepers lifted the shutters on their little stands, hoping for a good day of sales. Families opened their windows to the cool morning breeze, and birds chirped happily from rooftop to rooftop. High above the village, the great stone faces of the Hokage watched over everything with quiet pride. For a moment, the village seemed peaceful. Then laughter exploded through the streets. "Catch me if you can," shouted Naruko Uzumaki as she raced away from the Hokage tower. Naruko was smaller than most children her age, with bright golden hair that bounced wildly as she ran. She wore a cheerful orange outfit with blue shoulders that made her easy to spot from almost anywhere in the village. Right now, she was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Behind her, several Chunin hurried after her, all covered in splashes of pink, yellow, and purple paint. Only a few minutes earlier, Naruko had completed what she proudly called her greatest prank ever. Inside the Hokage's office, she had hidden tiny paint cannons near the doorway. The moment the third Hokage opened the door that morning, the paint exploded everywhere in a colorful cloud. The Hokage himself, Hiruzen Sarutobi, blinked in surprise as bright pink paint dripped from his hat. Then he heard giggling. Naruko sat in the Hokage's chair behind the desk, pointing and laughing with tears in her eyes. "Oh wow," she said between giggles. "Maybe it's time for you to retire, old man. If you can't dodge a prank like that, maybe I should be Hokage instead." The third Hokage tried very hard to look stern, but even he seemed close to smiling. Still, he raised his voice and declared, "Naruko Uzumaki. You are in very big trouble." "Yikes!" Naruko squeaked. In one quick motion, she leapt out the window and dashed away before anyone could stop her. "After her!" The Hokage called to the Chunin guards. "And bring her back safely." Naruko landed outside with a grin. "As if you'll catch me," she laughed. She sprinted through the village streets, hopping over fences and ducking around corners. A few villagers sighed when they saw her racing by, but others chuckled quietly at the colorful paint splattered across the chasing Chunin. Naruko had planned for this escape very carefully. Near the gate of the Hokage tower, she jumped neatly over a thin wire stretched across the ground. The Chunin behind her didn't notice it at all. The moment one of them stepped on the wire. Poof! More paint cannons exploded overhead, showering the group in bright colors once again. Naruko laughed even harder as she raced away. "You guys should look in a mirror later," she called back cheerfully. Eventually, one by one, the Chunin gave up chasing her. "I still have paperwork to finish," one groaned. "And I need lunch," another muttered. Soon, Naruko was alone. She slowed down and looked around. During all her running, she had wandered into a quiet part of the village she didn't recognize very well. By now, dark clouds had rolled across the sky. "Oh no," she said. "It's gonna rain soon. I better find someplace dry before I end up soaked." A few minutes later, she spotted an old property surrounded by tall trees. A long stone path led to a quiet house near the back. Naruko carefully pushed open the gate and hurried toward the house just as rain began to fall. Inside, the house was silent. She flipped on the lights and looked around curiously. "Whoa," she whispered. The place looked abandoned, but everything was neat and tidy, almost as if someone had once cared for it very deeply. Naruko wandered toward the fireplace, and suddenly froze. Hanging above it was a portrait of the fourth Hokage. Her eyes widened with amazement. Beside him stood a beautiful woman with long red hair and kind blue eyes. The two of them smiled warmly at each other. "This is the fourth Hokage's house?" Naruko gasped. "That's amazing." She turned quickly toward the door. "Okay, maybe I shouldn't be here." But just before leaving, something near the fireplace caught her eye. A loose stone. Curious, Naruko knelt down and carefully pulled it aside. Hidden behind it was a scroll. Naruko stared at it uncertainly. She knew she probably shouldn't take something that belonged to someone else. But somehow, she felt drawn to it. Very carefully, she tucked the scroll into her jacket pocket. Then she hurried back outside and ran through the rain toward her favorite ramen shop. By the time she reached Ichiraku Ramen, she was dripping wet but smiling again. "Old man Tucci," she called happily. "2 bowls of miso ramen, please." The ramen chef laughed warmly. "There you are, Naruko. I was wondering where you'd gone today." "Oh, she said quickly. "I kinda got caught in the rain." Tucci chuckled as he prepared the noodles. "I also heard about the Hokage Tower prank." Naruko grinned proudly. "Hey! Was it funny?" "Funny?" Tucci laughed. "I heard Lord Hokage turned completely pink." Naruko burst into laughter again. "And the Chunin got hit too." "Well then," Tucci said kindly as he placed a steaming bowl in front of her, "sounds like you had quite the adventure today." Naruko happily dug into her ramen. After finishing both bowls, she thanked Tucci and headed home. Once inside her small apartment, she locked the door, closed the curtains, and carefully placed the mysterious scroll onto her kitchen table. When she opened it, she found strange symbols drawn across the paper. "Huh?" she murmured. She remembered hearing about storage seals during one of her academy lessons, though she hadn't paid much attention at the time. Curious, she pressed her hand onto one of the symbols. Poof! Another scroll suddenly appeared in front of her. Naruko jumped backward in surprise. Whoa! She carefully unrolled the new scroll and stared at the complicated writing inside. At the top were the words, "Flying Raijin Jutsu." Naruko blinked several times. "This looks impossible." She groaned. How is anyone supposed to understand all this? For several minutes she stared at the scroll in confusion. But eventually, she crossed her arms firmly. "Nope. I'm not giving up. If this jutsu belonged to the 4th Hokage, then maybe it was special for a reason. Maybe it simply needed patience." Naruko smiled determinedly. "I'll figure this out someday. Believe it." 1 year later. A full year passed. Every night after her academy lessons, Naruko secretly studied the scroll. She spent hours reading books from the library and practicing strange symbols over and over again. Slowly, the complicated jutsu began making sense. One quiet evening, Naruko sat at her kitchen table with excitement sparkling in her eyes. "I think I finally understand it," she whispered. She carefully carved a special seal into the wooden floor near her front door. Then she returned to the kitchen and formed the hand signs exactly as the scroll described. "Flying Raijin Jutsu," she said softly. In a bright flash of yellow light, she vanished. An instant later, she appeared beside the front door. Naruko blinked in surprise. "I did it." But before she could celebrate properly, the room suddenly spun around her. Whoa! Thump! She fell gently onto the floor, dizzy. After a few minutes, the spinning finally stopped. Naruko slowly sat up and rubbed her head. "Okay. Maybe I should have read the warning first." She searched through the scroll again until she found a small note explaining that beginners often became dizzy during their first uses of the technique. Naruko laughed to herself. That would have been useful earlier. She carefully rolled up the scroll and looked toward the seal on the floor. For the first time in her life, she felt truly proud of herself. Not because of a prank. Not because she made people laugh. But because she had worked hard and accomplished something difficult all on her own. Naruko climbed into bed that night with a huge smile on her face. Tomorrow would bring another adventure. And she couldn't wait for it to begin. Naruko finally slipped into her seat near the back of the classroom, quietly setting her bag beside her chair. She gave a small sigh as she looked out the window. The bright morning sun warmed the academy walls, and for a moment she forgot all about Sakura's loud rejection. Beside her, Hinata gently folded her hands together. Even though she was shy, she was happy Naruko had chosen the seat next to her. It made her heart flutter in the nicest way. Iruka clapped his hands once to gather everyone's attention. "All right, class. Today we'll be practicing basic transformation techniques after lunch. I expect everyone to try their best." Most of the students groaned dramatically, but Naruko grinned. "Easy. I'll master it before anyone else, believe it." A few students rolled their eyes, but Iruka only smiled patiently. He had learned that Naruko's loud confidence usually hid how hard she worked when nobody was looking. The morning lessons passed slowly. Naruko doodled little frogs and spirals in the corner of her notebook while trying very hard not to fall asleep. Every now and then she caught Hinata sneaking nervous glances at her, though Hinata quickly looked away each time their eyes met. Finally, lunchtime arrived. The second Iruka dismissed the class, Naruko jumped to her feet. Ramen time. Kiba laughed. You say that every single day. Because ramen is amazing every single day. Naruko replied proudly. Choji nodded seriously while chewing on a snack. She makes a good point. Shikamaru stretched lazily. What a troublesome conversation. The four of them headed toward the village streets together. Though Naruko never said it out loud, moments like these made her feel warm inside. Maybe they were not the closest friends yet, but at least they talked to her and laughed with her. That mattered. As they walked, Naruko noticed Hinata trailing a short distance behind them, clutching her lunch bag tightly. Naruko slowed down a little. Hey, Hinata. Wanna come with us? Hinata nearly dropped her bag in surprise. And me? Yeah. More people means more fun. Kiba shrugged cheerfully. Sure, come along. Hinata's face turned pink, but she gave a tiny nod and hurried over. The group soon arrived at Ichiraku Ramen. The delicious smell of broth filled the air immediately. Welcome, called Tucci, the ramen shop owner. The usual, Naruko? You know it. Ayame giggled as she handed everyone water cups. You're here so often we should name a bowl after you. Naruko puffed out her chest proudly. The super awesome Naruko Deluxe. Everyone laughed, even Hinata, who quickly covered her mouth afterward in embarrassment. Naruko blinked in surprise before smiling brightly. Whoa, Hinata, I didn't know you laughed like that. Hinata looked down shyly. Sorry. Sorry? It was nice. Hinata's eyes widened slightly. Nobody besides her little sister had ever said something like that so casually before. While everyone ate, Naruko happily explained a new prank idea involving paint, fake frogs, and a bucket balanced above Kiba's doorway. Kiba loudly protested while Choji nearly choked laughing. For the first time that day, Naruko forgot about the cold stares from the villagers. After lunch, the group returned to the academy together. As they entered the classroom, Naruko quietly stayed behind for a moment near the doorway. Making sure nobody was watching, she carefully brushed her fingers against the underside of a desk. A tiny seal mark rested there, hidden from sight. Naruko smiled to herself. She still could hardly believe she had learned the flying Raijin technique from the old scroll. Even if she could not show anyone yet, simply knowing she had accomplished something so incredible filled her with determination. One day, she whispered softly, I'll become Hokage for real. Then everyone will finally smile when they see me. Just then, Hinata peeked back into the classroom. And Naruko? Class is starting. Naruko quickly perked up. Coming. As she hurried to her seat beside Hinata, the shy girl gave her a small, gentle smile. And somehow, that tiny smile made the whole classroom feel brighter. Once class was over, Naruko headed outside behind the academy building. Hidden nearby, Hinata quietly followed her as usual. Naruko leapt into the bushiest tree she could find. After carefully checking that nobody was watching, she formed a series of hand signs. In a soft golden shimmer, she vanished. A moment later, Naruko arrived back at her apartment and gently dropped onto her bed with a groan. Oh man. I can't wait until this dizzy feeling goes away, she mumbled. Every time I use that jutsu, I feel all wobbly afterward. After resting for a few minutes, Naruko put away her school supplies and headed toward Ichiraku Ramen for dinner. She briefly considered placing one of her special seals there, but quickly decided against it. Too many people visited the ramen stand every day, and she did not want anyone discovering her secret. Meanwhile, Hinata remained hidden near the academy grounds, completely amazed. How did Naruko disappear like that? She whispered to herself. I know she used hand signs, but I've never seen a jutsu work that way before. Hinata had activated her Byakugan just after Naruko climbed into the tree, careful not to reveal herself. Even with her powerful vision, she still could not fully understand what she had seen. Curious, Hinata decided to check Ichiraku Ramen, since Naruko often stopped there after school. Sure enough, Naruko was happily eating a large bowl of ramen inside. Using her Byakugan from a distance, Hinata noticed something unusual. Naruko doesn't have her school bag anymore, Hinata thought. Did she somehow go home first after disappearing? Before she could think any further, Hinata remembered that she had private gentle fist training with her father that evening. Reluctantly, she turned and headed home. Over the next few weeks, Naruko started arriving at the classroom before anyone else. At first, her classmates found it strange, but eventually they stopped paying attention. Everyone except Hinata, that is. Hinata grew more curious each day. She noticed that after training, Naruko often walked toward Ichiraku Ramen and then somehow vanished before going home. Hinata respected Naruko's privacy, yet she could not stop wondering how the mysterious jutsu worked. Naruko herself was also full of questions. One afternoon, the academy lesson focused on the fourth Hokage, who was sometimes called the Yellow Flash. Naruko had not been paying close attention until she heard that nickname. After class ended and the other students left, Naruko nervously approached Iruka. "Iruka-sensei?" she asked. What is it, Naruko?" Iruka replied kindly. Trying not to sound suspicious, Naruko rubbed the back of her head. Why was the fourth Hokage called the Yellow Flash? Iruka sighed dramatically, though there was amusement in his voice. "You really should pay more attention in class," he said. The fourth Hokage earned that nickname because he could teleport instantly using a very special jutsu. People said he moved like a flash of golden light. Outside the classroom door, Hinata gasped quietly. She had stayed behind after noticing Naruko had not rushed out like usual. When Iruka mentioned a flash of golden light, everything suddenly clicked together in her mind. So that's it, Hinata thought. Naruko's jutsu must be connected to the fourth Hokage somehow. Inside the classroom, Naruko tried to stay calm. What was the jutsu called? She asked. And how did he use it during missions? It was known as the Flying Raijin Jutsu, Iruka explained. The fourth Hokage used special seals connected to the technique. He could place the seals on objects and instantly travel to them whenever he wanted. Sometimes he marked special kunai, and other times he placed seals around an area ahead of time. Naruko listened carefully, her eyes widening with every word. Iruka continued, the jutsu was famous because it allowed him to appear almost anywhere in an instant. Many people admired how cleverly he used it to protect the village. Naruko could hardly believe it. Until now, she had only used the technique to travel between places she already knew well. She had no idea the jutsu could do so much more. Still, she reminded herself to be careful. If people found out I could use a technique like that, she thought, they might start asking a lot of questions. Out loud, she grinned brightly. Wow! That sounds like the coolest jutsu ever. Iruka laughed warmly. I suppose it does, he said. Now then, how about we go get some ramen? My treat. Naruko's face lit up instantly. Really? Awesome. Outside the room, Hinata quietly hurried away before they opened the door. Her heart was racing, not because she was afraid, but because she had finally uncovered Naruko's incredible secret. And somehow, knowing that secret only made Hinata admire her even more. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thank you for your support. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.